Hi, and thanks for your interest in Marshall Graphics Systems and our series of educational videos. My name is Michael Krulik, Solution Specialist with Avid, and before I get into the demonstration, let's talk a little bit about Marshall Graphics Systems and how they can help you. Marshall Graphics has been serving the video and broadcast industries for over 30 years and has both video and audio divisions. They are an elite reseller for Avid in the Southeast and sell into all markets. Now, as an elite reseller, Marshall Graphics is not only qualified to sell our entire Avid product line, but also provide product demonstrations, tech support, design, consultation, training, and many other services to help make your Avid experience a stellar one. Headquartered in Tennessee and with offices throughout the Southeast, Marshall Graphics is your partner for all things Avid. Well, before we get started, I want to tell you that there have been some changes made to the product line and some of the marketing terminology that we use with these products that you're about to see. Now, fundamentally, they're all the same products, just the names have been changed. So Media Composer is still your base software, but now you can buy Symphony as a separate option. You can also buy Newscutter as a separate option as well. Now, what was formerly called the Interplay Central platform is now called the Avid Media Central platform. Another item you'll hear me talk about is Interplay Central. That has been changed to Avid Media Central UX, providing the unified experience through a web browser. Now, what you'll hear me talk about as Interplay Sphere has been changed to Media Composer Cloud, because you will be working in your own private cloud. You'll also hear me talk about Interplay Pulse. And Interplay Pulse has been changed to Media Distribute, allowing you to distribute your assets to any social media outlet such as Facebook, Twitter, Vimeo, and even YouTube. All of these products come together as the Avid Media Central platform, which culminate into what you know is Avid everywhere. So what are we going to cover in the DVD? We have ISIS 5500, Avid's shared storage network. We have Product Asset Management System, or Production Asset Management System, with Avid Interplay. We have Review and Editing remotely, this great new technology with Avid Interplay Central and Avid Interplay Sphere. And how about deliverables for social media and mobile applications with Avid Interplay Pulse? If you are a large-scale network, if you're a mid-size rental house facility, or if you're even a boutique editing shop, we have a solution that fits your needs. Our ISIS, and ISIS stands for Infinitely Scalable Intelligent Storage. ISIS is the cornerstone of collaboration. Full collaboration for all of your editors to be sharing the exact same media. And by the way, ISIS works with other NLEs. So whether you're Avid, Final Cut, or Premiere, your editors just Ethernet directly into the ISIS shared storage network, and you have full collaboration. Very easy to use, easy to manage, and easy to administrate. It's proven technology that's been used for years. We just released the ISIS 5500. That's going to give you double the capacity at a great price. So you can get up to 64 terabytes of storage, that's raw media, add chassis, and get up to 384 terabytes of raw media at your disposal. With the new version of the ISIS software, we work with PC and Mac, and we just introduced client support for Windows 8 and Linux clients. It's also connecting to your clients by Ethernet, so you don't have to run fiber to all of your edit bays. You bring in a new laptop, you bring in a new computer, plug in your Ethernet cable, and you'll, in just a matter of minutes, have another editor available for you. Now, when you purchase an ISIS 5500, you get 90 client licenses. Initially working with 4 clients directly to the ISIS chassis, but with whatever switches you have, you can connect those and get up to 90 clients on a single system. So let's get into the management tool for the ISIS 5500. The great thing is I can type in an IP address anywhere that I am to get into it. I don't have to go to a separate administration tool. We'll type in the secret password, and it brings up the interface. It's a very nice graphical interface, very easy to use. And the nice thing is we give you a lot of tools here. You get to see instant status of how your system is currently running. The operating system is on an internal drive. You actually have 2 internal drives, one as a backup, so you're never going to be down when you're working with the ISIS system. You have 16 drives. They can be 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, or 4 terabyte drives. Again, your 16, 32, or 64 terabyte system available to you. And your Ethernet clients either directly connected up to 4, or with switches, you can get up to 90 clients on your ISIS network. But you're always getting feedback as to how your system is running. You'll see that your drives, you have your little indicators here that actually show you if your drives are starting to fail. Now in your 16 drive system, 15 of them actually have data sprayed across all of the drives. There's 3 sets of RAID 5 storage built into the system and 1 spare. The great thing is the spare is available to you when you need it. When you see a drive failing, you simply say, take all the media, redistribute it from a drive that may be failing to the spare drive. You're not going to be down. Everybody's going to be running. They're not going to know that there's been a change. You take out the bad drive, you get a new drive, you put it in, and that's your new spare. Really great system. So again, you're getting full feedback during the entire course of using your ISIS shared storage network. You can look at the status of the system, opening up all your little windows here. Here's your system performance as far as how much storage is being used. You can see file count. You see who's actually signed onto the system at the time. Again, all the feedback is being updated all the time. One note, with the ISIS 5500, you now get up to 8 million files on your ISIS shared storage network. That's huge. A lot more files can be stored on an ISIS 5500. Again, you're seeing system feedback, you're seeing performance. Again, all of this is updated. And you're seeing what clients are currently connected. And as far as going through the graphic interface here to administrate, little things like setting up a user. I click on users, and this is where you can assign who can and can't see what. Imagine you're at a facility, you have multiple clients. You have one shared storage network, but you could easily set up virtual workspaces where client A and client B are working on the same storage, but they can't see each other's media. You're setting up permissions for how people use the ISIS shared storage network. So I can easily come in and say, I'd like to create a new user. We can type in the username, we'll call it editor 1. Give them a password, but we can also define what sort of control they have. In our users here, not only are you setting up users and giving them permission for how they can work in the ISIS network, but you'll see down here workspace access. This is where you're defining who can and can't see a specific workspace, or also who can and can't read or write to that workspace. So you are deciding as the administrator what control or what permissions people have to use the system. We're going to go back to the beginning here, and I'm going to choose my workspaces. Now going into workspaces, we're seeing on our system here, and by the way, I'm looking at the ISIS shared storage network, which is back at our main facility in Burlington, Massachusetts. I'm seeing all of the workspaces that currently have been created, and I can go in and create a new workspace. So I'm going to call this workspace M. Krulik for me. It defaults to a 200 gigabyte capacity. I can go in and modify that. Let's just say I only need 100 gigs. And then again, I can decide who will be able to see this workspace. So I'm going to give myself the access to that, read and write ability, and apply that. So that's going to actually write a brand new workspace into my list of workspaces here. Now, with this user interface, you'll see in a workspace how much media is being used, and you're also seeing it by the data on the right side here. Now, the great thing about the ISIS shared storage network, again, not just permissions, but being able to change workspaces that are created dynamically using FlexDrive. Now, this is powerful. Imagine you need to add more storage to somebody's job, or you need to take away storage from somebody's job. Without shutting down your entire facility, I can instantly grab a handle here on any of these workspaces and either add or take away storage, and everybody's still working. Nobody knows that there's been a change. This is huge. And by the way, there's no media loss when you do this. Full control within this interface. Now, imagine you need to add another client to your ISIS shared storage network. You don't know where the DVD software is. You may have it on a thumb drive. You don't know where it is. You just want to add another client. It could be, again, a laptop, a desktop system. Just adding an Ethernet attached client to ISIS is very easy. We bring up the management console here. I go to the installers portion of the system, and directly from this web-based interface, which is the management console, I can download any client software to the system that I have connected, and I could be up and running in a matter of minutes. That's powerful. So you don't have to search the internet for all of the different various versions of software. When you install the current version of the ISIS software, that's the latest client software that's available. As you're working with the system also, you're getting full feedback on how the system is running, who's making changes. So I can go to the system log, and I'm seeing here a full list of any sort of controls that have changed, who's logged on, who's changed an ISIS workspace, anything. Being able to go in and take a look at the connection status and see who is connected, what operating system they're using, or what licenses they are taking up at this time. Again, is being seen right here, and also when they were last logged in. You can go back to home here, take a look at the system status history. ISIS Toolkit gives you things like logs, connection managers. ISIS Snapshots lets you go in and create a snapshot of your ISIS system as far as the status of how it currently is set up right now. And these snapshots can be used for your own history checking, or even sending in for any sort of support issues. As you can see, it's very easy to manage your ISIS shared storage network. But as an editor, how do I connect to the workspaces that I've been given access to? I can go into the ISIS Client Manager and bring up the workspaces that I have access to. If you remember earlier, as the administrator, I can decide who can and can't see what workspaces on the shared storage network. As the editor, when I log in, I can only see what workspaces that I've been given access to. Now this is Marshall Graphics, their ISIS 5500. So I can go in and see which workspaces I have the ability to see, or I've been given the permission to see, and I can choose which ones I would like to mount. I can also do an auto mount. An auto mount means whenever I log in, it's going to automatically mount that workspace. I'm not going to have to think about it. And you'll see that it comes up as a network attached drive to my workspace. Now I can read and write to that if I've only been given permission to do so. Now another thing, when you are creating your users, you can assign what sort of bandwidth limitations they may have when they're using it. If they're a producer who doesn't need to see the highest quality, you can give them a lower bandwidth than maybe an editor who may need a higher bandwidth on their system. So if I go in and select my user that I had set up before, you'll see right here under the user, I could choose or type in the bandwidth that needs to be assigned. I only want to give 25 megabytes a second for myself. So again, not just workspaces, but bandwidth can be totally controlled in the ISIS shared storage network. When you are creating a user, as you can see, I've not only gone in and decided how much bandwidth I want to give myself, limiting the bandwidth, but you'll also see that I can set up who can and can't resize the workspaces, who can modify protection on the system, who can be a remote user, and we're going to talk about being a remote user later in this educational video, and who can disable users. So again, all of this can be defined by the administrator. Now the way the ISIS system works is it has linear scalability. So what this allows you to do is, as you add chassis to your ISIS shared storage network, you're going to get better bandwidth, better capacity, and better performance overall. Your workspaces can expand across all the chassis, which is actually giving you an intelligent media distribution, and it's automatically redistributing all the data across all of the drives, giving you much faster rebuild in the event of a failure. We're doing ongoing tests with ISIS back at Avid Corporate and through our engineering efforts. We have this huge scalar lab with at least 300 editors banging on our ISIS shared storage all at one time. Full workflow testing and qualification using our scalar lab. So we've been talking about the ISIS 5500, our new offering with great value, great storage for some boutique or mid-range type shops. But if you have a full enterprise need, we have the ISIS 7000. Imagine 24 chassis, each with 64 terabytes of storage, and the capacity to add up to 331 clients. We also have full redundancy and failover built in with the ISIS 7000 system directors. So you have greater capacity, you have greater bandwidth, you have more clients, all available to you. This again is proven technology. It has been out there for years and people love it. Now we're going to talk about several components that make up Avid Interplay. Depending on what your role is going to dictate what Avid Interplay software you may want to use. We have Avid Interplay Access, which gives you a full range of looking into all of your assets on your ISIS shared storage network. That is all of the assets that have been checked in to Avid Interplay. We'll be looking at Avid Interplay Central, which lets you view through a URL, just typing in a web browser on a Mac or PC, going in and taking a look at a streamable copy or a proxy of the media which is on your Avid ISIS system, which may be back at your main facility. We also have Avid Interplay Sphere. Imagine you're an editor working in Media Composer, but you're halfway around the world. You can still tap into the assets on the ISIS system with Avid Interplay, downloading a proxy version, editing it, and then it's going to link to the high-res version back at the facility. And then we have Avid Interplay Pulse, which will take any media that you're working on, any sequences, any assets, and will let you take those and move them to a deliverable for web, for social media, or for mobile applications. Avid Everywhere is allowing you to collaborate no matter where you are. I could be in New York making a marker, and as soon as I save that, that tag is put on the media, which is right back here in Tennessee. I can go in and look at multicam edits. I could make rough cuts. Any information that I save, being able to look at any asset on that ISIS shared storage network, looking at it through Avid Interplay, gives me the whole experience of Avid Everywhere. Now the ISIS shared storage network is full collaboration with media. Now the great thing about Avid Interplay and our production asset management system is it tracks Avid assets as well as non-Avid assets. So QuickTime files, JPEGs and graphics, Avid MXF files, anything you have in your production facility can be tracked. And the idea is it's not just for editors, it's for producers, it's for loggers, and it's for your graphics department, allowing full collaboration throughout your entire facility. So let's start off with Avid Interplay Access. This is the tool which is going to let you build the database for all of your assets in your system. It's like a library. When stuff is checked in to Avid Interplay, that's going to give anybody connected to Interplay the access to those assets. So this is our main window in Interplay Access, and it's installed on anybody who is connected to Avid Interplay. And the idea here is it's going to let you add metadata, it's going to let you add comments, it's going to let you manage all of your media, but still anybody who is connected to Avid Interplay will be able to pull out any of that data to use in editorial or to use in a graphic system in your facility. So looking at the interface right here, all of these panes can be set up the way you want to view them. The database that you see right here is the window into everything that's been checked in to Avid Interplay. Whenever you check in a bin inside of the editor, it comes into your projects and is listed right here. When I open up one of these project folders, what we would see inside of that are any bins that have been checked in at that time. And when I select the bin, we'll see the assets pop up right into the assets window. We can scroll through here. We have instant access to see what media is online by the little green dot right here. We have access to all of the metadata across our columns here in the assets. And the object inspector lets us see a lot of vital information, like who checked in that asset, what is the current resolution of that clip in your editing application, what tracks is there, and you can even add any sort of metadata or even any column that you may want to add as another piece of metadata to the asset in your system. Now, let's say you're trying to find out if an asset in your system has been used in any sequence in your project. So I can select any asset that has been checked in for my project, and in relatives, it's going to actually show me what sequence that asset is used in. I don't know how many times I've tried to cut a sequence, but I don't want to keep using the same shot in my sequence. We also see associations. The associations will show me what folders or projects that asset is associated with. So how do we get assets from Media Composer into Interplay, or non-Avid assets into Interplay? Well, let's start off inside of Media Composer. Now, all of your media is brought in. It's either captured from tape or digitally through AMA, Avid Media Access. And the nice thing with AMA is metadata brought in from all these digital formats is maintained when the files are linked. So to take this media and check it into Interplay, we could either go to the Fast menu and say check in bin to Interplay, or you could choose specific assets and check those into Interplay also. So a number of ways, even when you close a bin, a prompt will come up and say, do you want to check this bin into Interplay? So once it's checked in, anybody who has access to Interplay will be able to see that metadata or have information for that asset. So how do I get in media that's not an Avid asset and not coming in from Media Composer? Well, I could create catalogs, and this is great. It could be sound effects, could be a music library. Anything that you want to have as an asset that's searchable or you want to add metadata to can easily be dragged and dropped to a folder. Here I have several pics. We'll go to Pictures, drag them in, it checks them in, and I can go in and add comments, but these are now searchable clips. And the object inspector here is showing me the properties that I check that in. It shows the local path on where it is. And I even put a comment that that's from the Sydney Botanical Gardens. That's all searchable metadata now. Now you can go in and manually do check-ins, but through other devices like Airspeed and Interplay Capture and other devices that are connected to Avid Interplay, we do have automatic check-ins. So if you're coming through Airspeed and you're capturing media in from a live ingest, all that media is instantly going to be checked into Interplay as it's being captured. So let me show some other functionality with information that's being checked in into Interplay. Now what you'll see here inside of Media Composer, I have this clip that came from the Atomos camera. It's linked via AMA. And I want to go in and add some markers or points that maybe I want to use as reference later. This could be by any other editor, could be by the producer, but it's going to add metadata to this clip, or it could be to a sequence. So I'm going to add a marker. I'm just going to say this is a piano shot. Right there. And we could zoom through and we can say, oh, that's a nice angle with the blur. So adding markers to this clip allows me to add like little reference points that I may want to refer back to later. Could be a comment. I can go in and change colors to the markers. So there we have two of them on this clip. And when I check in this asset, these markers also will be moved over into Interplay and can be used as a searching mechanism. And this, again, the markers can be applied to sources, or it could be applied to a sequence inside of the editor. So we'll take this clip. I'm going to check that into Interplay. That's been checked in. When I go back to Interplay Access, we'll see this folder is the bin that I checked in. Here are the assets. Any of the metadata, names, anything is brought over. The information in the object inspector, but if I go to my little piano shot here and go to frame locators, it's going to bring up the two comments that I made. I was the user, those are the colors that were assigned, and this is the information that was typed in. Now, inside of Interplay Access, again, not only you're tracking Avid and non-Avid assets, but let's say you want to search for a certain asset. Now, I could go in and type in a name or a word that may have to do with a comment or any part of the metadata. So I can go into the Simple Search tab, and I want to search for, I know that there's a piece from Arcade Fire, the band. Austin City Limits gave us some great footage to use for that. So I can type in the word arcade, we'll do a search, and it's going to bring up any asset, could be a folder, could be an actual asset, searching across the entire database for any information. It's going to let me see, if I like that shot, if that information or that asset is online, and if I want to use it. Now, the nice thing about searching in Access is it doesn't have to be as general as that. Let's say you want to get a little more granular. You want to find a certain sound effect or a piece of music. I can go into my searching, and rather than being a simple search, I can choose extended. And what that allows me to do is I can type in text. Let's say I want something that contains Arcade Fire, and I want it to have a duration that could be greater than or less than a certain time. Let's say it's greater than 2 minutes, or has another Boolean operator applied. You can actually get as fine or as granular that you want to do a specific search. And any of these searches you can save into your little saved searches area. So create it once, you don't have to create it again, but it's going to let you define specific parameters to search for across any asset across Avid Interplay. Now what you can also do in Avid Interplay is set up categories, and this is done on the administration side. Now these categories could be anything you want. It's customized for your needs. You'll see under categories, this has been pre-set up for news, post, or stock footage. So this could be a character in maybe the episodic television piece that you're working on, or it could be an angle for your camera angles that you want to search for. You can go in and assign any asset. Let's say this is stock footage. We can take all of our assets right here. We can take all of our assets right here and assign these as stock footage categories. That means anytime I select anything for stock footage is going to bring up these 3 assets. Again, a great tool for searching across your entire ISIS storage network for any asset that you are trying to look for. If you have a series of QuickTime files, these can be dragged and dropped in, just like I did with the pictures, into our QuickTime category. Here I have some videos that I want to bring in. Let's take our little new to Media Composer 7 video. I can simply take that from the desktop, drop that into my QuickTime folder. We'll call this the original version. And that asset is now being added as an asset to Interplay. Again, from the editor, checking stuff into Interplay, or quickly dragging and dropping from the desktop, from your network attached storage, from external storage, whatever you want, into Interplay will become an asset that you can search for. Okay, so that asset, the QuickTime file, is now checked into Interplay. The nice thing about a QuickTime file, I can actually preview it and play it in Interplay Access. So again, this is just a QuickTime file. You can't do this with Avid assets because those are Avid MXF. But if you just have QuickTime files from your graphics department that you need to preview, you can actually do that inside of Access. Plus, you could even drag and drop assets from Interplay Access right into Editorial. So if I want to take one of my assets like this QuickTime file that I just brought in, and I want to add that to my Media Composer project, now I can actually take that, hold down a modifier, click and drag that into my bin, and since that's a local asset to my system, that's going to link to it via AMA in real time. And that's now playing the asset. Okay, so let's step a little deeper into the world of Avid Interplay. Now, just so you know, Interplay can work in a local area network. We do have a variety of tools that let you work if you're in the facility and you are connected locally. Things like Interplay Assist that let you play media and do some logging and shot listing. But what if you're outside of your network? Let's say you're down the street, you're across town, you're in another state, another part of the world, and you still need to access that exact same media that's back at the facility. Well, we have a variety of tools that let you do that with Avid Interplay, and we're going to start off with Interplay Central. Now, Interplay Central is just like launching a web browser. You can go into a Mac or a PC, launch the web browser. Here we have right up here, we're launching into our Avid ISIS system, which is in Burlington, Massachusetts. I'll type in my credentials. Everything is set up by user permission. It's going to allow me to open up different tools inside of Interplay Central. So in launching Interplay Central right here, the layout that I previously had set up is bringing up my media, if I double click. And what I have here is, it's not looking at the high-res media as if I was local. Anytime I access any media, if I'm searching for it, if I double-click, it's giving me that media. It's actually giving me a proxy on the fly that I can play back. I can scrub through. I have full time code, that's frame accurate time code, just as if I was right on my network using the actual media. And I can go in and play. I can add markers. These markers, just as you saw before in Interplay Access, are the same markers that once they are made, they're seen throughout the entire Avid Interplay system. Instant access. As soon as they're made, as soon as that's saved, that is seen by anybody throughout the entire system. Now, if I want to change my layout, because I don't want my media player to be on top of my actual media clips, you simply take the tab, drag it to the region that you want to drop it into, and it's going to provide a new window there. Again, you can change the view, change the size, and this now is the current logging layout that I have set up. If I open up the little pull down here in logging and I want to go to any video layout, we do have several layouts that you can design, but the nice thing is, depending on permission, you can set up your users to only bring up a specific layout. So again, it's all designed and customized for you, the user, and how that wants to be seen and worked with. We do have the panes window, and this is actually showing me what windows or what panes to the layout do I want to bring up. Things like audio. If we want to bring up the audio for the clip and have control of that, we can drop that over here. Again, any sort of assets, any things you'd like to view can be assigned. So now in Avid Interplay, again, everything is set up by role. Now, I could be playing the producer or the logger. I want to go into this media right here, and I want to add markers along this clip so that the editor back at the facility will be able to see what comments I made and will be able to make some editorial decisions depending on what I say. And I'm going to go ahead and start playing. Now, while it's playing, I simply Command M, and you'll see a new marker gets put in the window here. So I can say ES, or establishing shot of concert. And while it's playing, I can keep applying markers. Good pan. Okay, let's jump down a little farther. But you see the markers here, and even when I select them, just like when you're in the editor, if you're familiar with Media Composer, it actually takes me to that point on the clip. You can also change the playback quality of your image right here. You have your little pull-down windows in each of the panes. So depending on my bandwidth, depending on what I'm doing, I may not be in an area where the bandwidth is as good that I can get a smooth playback. I can actually go in and change the visual representation of that media that's being streamed and give me a better experience. But you have full control of that in your view. You can also change the aspect ratio and even bring up a playback statistics window where you can see the bandwidth as it's being played and being pulled down. So this is all happening real time as it's playing back. But let's say as a producer, I need to set a restriction. There's a portion of the concert here that, maybe it's not a great angle. I don't want a portion of it used. So why not mark a range, an in and an out area? And you'll see here, besides being able to add marks and change the color of the marks that you're adding, the next icon here is add restriction. And what that tells me is from the in point to the out point, and these are the time codes, do not use this angle. That is metadata that is instantly added to that clip so that when the editor brings up this clip in the Media Composer, they're going to get a little window that pops up saying that this clip has a restriction. You'll be able to open it up and say, do not use this angle, and I'll know immediately that I should not use that angle. Again, instantaneous feedback. We even had the little restriction right up on top here. It's telling me do not use that angle. A lot of times I need to save a list of the markers that were created. So besides being able to add restrictions and markers, you'll see export. And right from Interplay Central, I can export a different format of my markers. So I now have a hard copy of any sort of markers, any sort of notes, anything that I've made that I could save for reference later. And that can be downloaded. XML, CSV, Media Composer text, or just plain text. And you can give it a name. Save that out. Once that's saved, any of that data that's been added, any markers or restrictions, are instantly added to that clip. With Avid Interplay Central and the latest version, we have a really great new tool. If you're doing any multicam editing, why not be able to see multicam in Interplay Central, no matter where you are in the world? So my multicam group has been created in the editing system. When the multicam group is checked in, a couple of things you'll note here is there are a lot of markers, because those are markers on all of the clips used within the group. And when I select the multi-angle view icon, you'll see, just like in the editor, I can now see all 7 angles of the concert and be able to play them back. This is huge. And what's really nice is as you're watching and it hits the markers, you'll see on the right-hand side here that it actually highlights when it hits the marker that it's actually seeing. So what about making some editing decisions? I can do it by the single clips, or I could even edit from the multicam group. So we're going to do both of these different ways with Interplay Central. In my asset window, you'll see the little pull down here. I can create a basic sequence. So by selecting basic sequence, I can go in and give that sequence a name. I'm simply going to call it MGS for Marshall Graphic Systems Cut 1. Perfect. That's the name of my sequence. And in my little viewer here, you can see I can switch between the asset and the output, so depending on what I want to see. So let's go ahead and start making a cut. If I wanted to do it from the individual non-multicam clips, it's just as easy as going in and selecting an in and an out. But where's my timeline? I actually need to bring up the sequence in a different pane. And let's go ahead and move that down to this lower portion right here. So I can simply take the mark in and out point from this clip right here, drag that into my little timeline, and I've made an edit. Believe it or not, in a web-based browser, I've made an edit that when this is saved, the editor will be able to see back at the facility, linking to the high resolution of this exact same media. We'll make another cut. We'll go from here, we'll mark an in and an out. This is going to be edit number 2. Fast, easy, and we can even go in and make some editorial decisions by just clicking in the sequence window on the edge, and I've made a basic edit. Very powerful. Now let's do this from the multicam group. So I'm going to create a new sequence, and we'll call that MGS Multi. So here's my new sequence. Now I can go into my multicam group from Arcade Fire. In multicam, I could simply select the angle I want to be cutting in, or it lets me choose right here which one I want to show full screen. But once it's playing, let's start with the drummer. We'll mark an in point, mark an out, or play it. Once the song starts, mark an out. I can take that. That's edit number 1. Now let's go to this angle right here. Mark an in point. Stop that. That's edit number 2. And keep going through your multicam group and creating an actual multicam cut between the angles. We can play that back. Now again, this is a very rough edit. You're going to go in and definitely clean it up, but this gives you some amazing control using the web-based browser with Interplay Central. And we're just going to make some easy cuts from one shot to the next. We'll make another edit here, and let's just jump down to another portion on this one. We'll make that our next edit. Now notice, as I move the edits around, everything's being reorganized. So not only can you go in and trim the edits down, but you can easily grab clips and reorganizing them, rippling the shots in that timeline. You've seen one sequence right here. This is a basic sequence. It's one track of video and one track audio. Again, we're trying to make a very simple interface for the person who needs to use Interplay Central remotely. So as we talked about permissions again with Avid Interplay and Interplay Central, you may want to design a different layout depending on what the role is that you have, whether you're a producer, whether you're a logger, whether you're just looking at media and you don't want to have a timeline. So you can go in and design these layouts so every time you log in, that's what comes up. So as somebody who just needs to view media, this may be a very simple layout. So if you're navigating to your media, a double click, it's going to load in that clip, again creating that real-time proxy, and I play it. Gives me again just a real nice visual representation of just media, nice, clean, and simple. If you need to bring up audio, maybe you do want to see levels to check levels on there, simply go to the panes here. Maybe have a layout that looks something like this. You do have your levels. You do have control for muting. So you can mute your tracks. You can turn on individual tracks. Again, you're visually seeing the same 24 tracks that you have available in Media Composer as an editing system. Let's say you're the producer or the person who may need to see markers or create markers on the media. So here we have the little multicam sequence of Arcade Fire. All of the locators that have been created from everybody who's been looking at the media. Again, we're tracking everything. You can decide in the editor whose markers you do or don't want to see. But here I can go in and view the markers. We also have a little help menu. So if you do need help on any part, here's the markers pane, since I'm in markers. And you can even bring up a little keyboard shortcut window. So your numeric keypad on your keyboard is instant access to your markers. Also, again, we talk about asset management and being able to search for media and search for clips. So I need to search for a specific clip I may be working on. There is a pane that allows you to search. And your search can be across all assets, can be across stories. If you are doing news and you're working with iNews and you're trying to search for a story, you have links into your iNews system. And you have media. So you can go across everything, certain stories, or media assets. So I'm going to search for a certain media asset. Let's search for drum. Go ahead and hit search. It's going to bring up any asset that has anything relating to the word drum, and it's going to list it in my window right here. And here is all of my media. Those are all my drummer shots. Anything that has drum in the metadata, it's usually the same ones. I double click, and I now have access to that asset in Interplay Central. You can also add criteria. If you remember in Interplay Access, I was able to go in and do more of a deep dive into certain things I want to search for. So under Add Criteria, I could say not only do I want to search for drum, but I want to look for something that has to do with a certain video resolution. If you have multiple assets at different qualities, you may have AVCI, you may have DNX HD36, you may have uncompressed. It's a single asset, but we have pointers to all of the different types of resolutions or transcodes also. So we keep track of everything. So it's easy to search for any specific resolution that you may have. You can search for a specific category. Again, we talked about categories. We have news, post, or stock footage. We can search across those. And the important thing to note here is I've just launched a web browser. I'm not in the actual facility. I'm on a laptop, I'm on a Mac, I've launched into the web browser, and I'm looking at the exact same media that they're seeing back in Burlington, Massachusetts. Now again, we're talking about full collaboration across your entire facility, your network, your shop. So as you start working with assets, I can instantly add a little email message within my internal emailing system between myself and my editors or my producers with the email system in Interplay Central. So you'll see across the top here, you can actually add little notes, but I can actually bring up my messages pane and move assets into what I want to have sent. So let's go ahead and send this to Corey. We've added her name here. It could be multiple people. I can simply drag an asset up to my area right here, and that asset with any note, this is a great shot. I say send. Now Corey, when she opens up the editor on her system in Interplay Sphere, then she will have that link to that asset that she could simply drag and drop into her bin. Now we're going to go in and create an advanced sequence. These capabilities are set up depending on permissions and basically what your role is. So the basic sequence had 1 track of video and 1 track of audio, but you'll see the advanced sequence gives me video, a nat sound audio track, sound on tape, and even a VO. The cool thing is with the VO is you could literally plug a USB mic into your laptop and do a voiceover while the video is playing in the sequence, and that is actually written to the timeline. Simply click on the little microphone button. I'm actually using the internal mic on the laptop, so we are seeing the levels as I'm just talking normally. And I queue up to the point I want to start my VO. I hit record. Gives me a little countdown to prepare me. And Arcade Fire live at Austin City Limits. A great crowd here. They're excited. What a great song. And we're out. Creates the clip, drops it here in my VO, and let's play that back. And Arcade Fire live at Austin City Limits. A great crowd here. So as you can see, this was just for demo. It's not, my VO career isn't taking off, but just getting the point across that you can do a VO with an external mic or your internal mic on your computer. So we've been in Interplay Central. We've made some sequences. I actually want to bring back one of the sequences, the multicam group sequence that I did. And we're going to add some markers because I want to actually see those when I open up this same sequence in Media Composer. So here in the sequence, let's go ahead and add a couple markers across here. We'll go to our marker pane. And just so you'll know what I'm dropping in, we have begin, we have drum. We'll add another marker right here. We'll call this Marshall Graphics, so you'll see that on what I create. And we'll come down here, good drummer girl. All right, we'll call her Gina. If you remember Gina from the Go-Go's, we'll just drop in Gina drums away. Make sure you spell drums right. And again, anything that anybody can make, you can change the color, you can apply any sort of data or comment there. And when I save this out, it's going to be included with the clip. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save this. And we're going to go into Media Composer. So I'm now back at the facility. I have my media, which is residing on my ISIS shared storage network. And I now, within Media Composer, can bring up under the Tools menu the Interplay window. So inside of the editor, I have my normal bins, my normal way of editing, but I now have a look into Interplay inside of Media Composer. And I have the same directory panel that you saw in Interplay Access, and you'd also have that in Interplay Central. Plus I can go in and search for any media, search for the data, search for assets, search for sequences, but we'll see right here that I have my MGS Multi, my MGS Advanced, and the Cut 1 that I created in Interplay Central. I can simply take these assets or the sequences, drag and drop them into a bin, and it's going to check them out of Interplay and into my editor that I can now use in my project. There they are. So here are my sequences. We'll close the interplay window. I simply double click and there's my cut. That's the first cut that I made using the media from Arcade Fire, all timecode accurate and playing on my ISIS network. Now, the media that I actually added markers to is MGS Multi. And look at that. The markers are right here. If I bring up my marker list, the markers that I created, there's Marshall Graphics, there's Begin, there's Gina Drums Away. So you saw that instantly. As soon as that was created in Interplay Central, I see those markers and that data right here. Something that I can search for, something that I can use. They're notes that are made from the producer, and as an editor, that's valuable information for me. And the beautiful thing is the producer didn't have to be in the edit bay with me. All of that metadata, that complete exchange, gives you that seamless workflow that Avid is known for. We're now going to move into the world of editorial with Avid Interplay Sphere. So the idea with Interplay Sphere is it's Media Composer with remote capabilities. So ideally, for me as an editor, I could be anywhere in the world, open up my Media Composer software on my laptop, and link to media which may be back at the facility, which could be halfway around the world. The great thing about that also for the facility that has to hire editors is they have a huge pool of Avid editors that are out there that need to work and want to work, and who maybe you work well with, but they may not be local. So you could give them credentials to log into your facility and to the media on your ISIS system using Avid Interplay Sphere. They open up Media Composer software, they link to your media, and they're going to be working with a proxy of the media that's frame accurate, but they don't have to be right at the facility. So inside of Media Composer, you have your standard bins, but you also have under the Tools menu the Interplay window, which brings up Avid Interplay. So this is where, depending on what access and what privileges I have to look at what workspaces and projects, I can go in and take a look at, here we have a little spy movie of Agent MX0. I can go into any media that's been checked in. Here we have some green screen shots. Here we have some of the demo cuts, some of the shots that are in there with some audio. I'm going to go to my green screen shots and simply double click on one of them right here. And it's going to load that into my source window, just as if I was working with local media. But the great thing is it's going to download a Flash MPEG file that's going to be something that I can scrub through, play with, and that's frame accurate. So any of the media that we have, if I want to go in and cut that into my sequence, or I could actually click those elements, we'll take all three of these green screen shots, and I'm going to drag them into one of my bins, so now it's part of the project. You drag it in here, it checks it out of Avid Interplay, and you're going to see the asset come in as actual clips into what I currently have as my AMA folder. And there they are. Now what you'll also note is the icons themselves have a little down arrow on them. If it was local media, there wouldn't be an arrow at all. It would be a physical film clip for the master clip. But since there's a down arrow on it, that's showing me that that is Interplay Sphere media. That's downloading that media to my local system that I can only see when I'm logged in. If I'm logged out, you're going to see media offline. But as soon as I log back in, it's going to link back to my media using Avid Interplay Sphere. But now I can take these clips, mark ins, mark outs, drop them into my timeline just as if I was editing locally, and now I've cut in my little green screen on top of my other media. Plus at this point I could go in and add effects. If I do want to go in and key out that green screen, I go to Key, go ahead and choose the effect we want to use. It's going to bring up our little keyer. I can choose the green screen. And even with the proxy media that I'm working with, I now have generated a key, at least to do a little sample, that once this is saved and checked into Interplay, it's going to link to the high-res media back in Burlington, Massachusetts. All of it's frame accurate, all the edits are right there, and anything that I cut into my sequence is going to again link directly to the media back in Burlington, Massachusetts. So the great thing with Interplay Sphere is I could be working with the proxy media, but I could also be working with local media. So by using AMA, I'm going to go ahead and link to some other media. Here we have some more Atomos DNX files. I double click. It loads in a clip right here. This has nothing to do with the Agent movie, but it is local media. You can see the quality is much better. That I could still go in and cut that into the sequence, but let's say I'm on the other side of town, or the other side of the country, or the other side of the world, and I need to get this local media back to the facility. But what I can do is right-click on the clip itself, select Remote Upload, and it's going to let me, from my local system, upload that over Wi-Fi, over wired connection. And it's going to let me choose the proxy H.264 with MP2 audio, or a high quality where I can actually choose DNX HD, 1:1, even ProRes if if I'm on the Macintosh, AVCI, XAVC, or I could even choose proxy then high media. And the idea of this is in the background, it's going to upload to whatever quality I choose back to the facility and put the media on the ISIS. The nice thing about that is it's not going to change any of the playback performance or the ballistics while you're editing, because as you're playing media on your local system, it's going to pause the background remote upload. Then when you stop playing, the remote upload will then begin again. So I simply choose what I want to send up. Let's go ahead and send up a DNX HD 36. I choose the workspace that it's going to be going to on the workspace back on the ISIS. I say OK. It requests the upload. It's actually sending that, sending the data information back up, and it's going to give me a little background cue where you're going to see the progress of that file happening in the background. The nice thing is you can also queue up multiple files, and it's going to queue them up so one by one after the other, they'll actually be uploaded. And you can even change the priority if you realize that one has to be uploaded before the other one. The nice thing is this is all happening in the background. You see the control happening right over here with the little dial, little radio dial. And I'm still editing. And I could even take this clip, this again is my local file, and I could cut that into my sequence wherever I want that to go. So this is now incorporating a local file along with Sphere media on my laptop. Also, as I'm editing, I may be adding more clips that are AMA linked media or local files. You can even set up on your sequences a remote sync upload. It's actually right here. Start remote sync sequence. What that does is I'm editing along and I keep adding new elements, new local elements to my timeline. It's going to queue up any new elements in the timeline into that remote upload. So set it and forget it. So one thing to note here when we're talking about Avid Interplay Sphere is when you're selecting the media remotely to download to your local system, it will take about a second or two for the initial motion JPEG files to start downloading, but then that's cached and you can play it back and have the ballistics as if the media was local. The remote upload is actually going to take a little bit longer. We do take into consideration the fact that you would rather be playing the media and working with the timeline than having to wait for that upload to happen. So upload is being paused in the process when you are playing. So that is a definite benefit when working with Interplay Sphere. Again, all of this is full collaboration. This is the editor working remotely. This is the producer or the logger with Interplay Central working remotely on their laptop with the URL, the website. This is the editor working actually at the facility, even producers. So we're actually opening this all up for people to work either on local area networks or wide area networks. So this is the whole idea of Avid Everywhere. So at this point, we've covered all different areas of production, whether it's acquisition or editorial and creative, and working locally, working remotely. But how do we bundle this all together and distribute this for the new world, for mobile applications or for web distribution? Well, Avid Interplay Pulse is just that application. So within Interplay, actually the Interplay Access window or even Interplay Central, I can select any asset. It could be a clip, it could be a sequence, but I'm still working remotely. I've logged into Interplay Central. I choose the asset that I want to post. It could be to Facebook, to Twitter, to Brightcove, Kaltura, Vimeo, YouTube, whatever we select here. And I could do them all at once. I could say I want it to go to Facebook, select the Facebook profile I want, video profile. It's actually selecting the profile, listing it here. Any message that I want to add around that. If I want to go to Twitter, I add that and choose the Twitter profile. It's again taking the asset that I have selected. I select post, and it actually packages it all up in whatever format it needs to go to each of these different deliverables. So we've covered a lot of ground here with Avid Interplay. And to summarize, we're talking about the main components being Interplay Central, which is a role-based web application which can run on Mac or PC, and allowing you access to the assets remotely, being able to browse media, to add custom metadata, to add markers, or even create shot lists. Then we have Avid Interplay Sphere, giving you remote access through Avid Media Composer and allowing you to work with remote assets and even local assets, and the ability to take those local assets and remotely upload them back to the facility, giving you great collaboration no matter where you are in the world. And finally, we have Interplay Pulse, which lets you take all the assets you've been working with, whether it's clips or sequences that you've been editing, and package them up in a way that is easily deliverable to all of the new social media outlets, being able to transcode, combine, and publish all in one simple step. The people at Marshall Graphics here are definitely here to help you put together a really great Avid solution, whether it's editorial, whether it's shared storage systems, or adding on any Avid Interplay services. So definitely reach out to them. They'll be happy to help.